So good.
Alright squad, Ben here, or Mr. Hardtail, however you want to call it. Today I kind of want to go over kind of an important part of having a hardtail setup. And that is the only suspension you have on the bike, which is the front fork. I think there's a lot of misconception about what should and should not be done in terms of front fork setup. So I want to give you my thoughts, not necessarily on the fork itself, but on how I think you should set up your front fork to give you the best ride possible on your hardtail bike. So I just want to get this out of the way right on the get-go. This is kind of my opinion and how I like to run things, okay? I'm not telling you I am like the guru of, I'm the one who knows all best that is for suspension setup for a hardtail. I'm letting you know, you guys already have a good idea of the type of terrain I run, and I'm gonna give you what I think is the best setup, at least for someone like me, to run that terrain, and also to avoid that notorious arm pump, because being in Vancouver, BC, having the trails I have available to me, including Whistler, I have some pretty long descents and some long chunky descents, and I want to be able to set my bike up to the best possible settings to give me zero arm pump. And I can assure you right now, with the way I have my bike set up, and even the way I had my bike set up before I had the Fox 36 on here, I had it set up so where I get pretty much no arm pump. So I want to let you guys know, you don't need to spend, $1,000 to $2,000 on a fork and suspension to get no arm pump. It's just small things that I think a lot of people neglect that can make a big difference in the way your bike feels. So let's get into it. Okay, so first thing we're going to get into is travel. So myself, once again, emphasizing my personal opinion. I guarantee there's going to be snobs out there that are going to try and rip my head off, and that's fine, man. That's all good. Like if you want to, type in a calculator and read to me all the numbers that don't make sense to you, no problem at all. It's all good, and I completely appreciate that. But my personal opinion, so one of the sweet things about running a hardtail is, I truly think you can get away with over-forking a bike a lot more than you could on a full suspension bike. What I mean by that is, this bike comes stock with a 160 mil front fork. I pump it up to 170 mil, and I don't think I go back. Honestly, don't think I go back. And in a hole, I don't think over-forking a hardtail in general is going to be that bad. So I truly I'm coming from a racing background. I've raced enduro for quite a few years in both BC, Canada, and California. Enduro series for quite a few years, and I can tell you right now, over-forking a full suspension bike has a much greater impact on the pedaling and the climbing abilities of a bike than it does on a hardtail. So I actually think you have a lot more wiggle room in terms of travel and the effect it has on its maneuverability and climbing than you do on a full suspension bike. So don't be afraid to pop an extra 10, maybe even 20 mil of travel out of your hardtail. That's a disclaimer, Commencal on the Meta, they do say it is still built to take up to 170 millimeter travel. Now that being said, I'm running a 170 mil fork, but it's also a 29er fork. So that's also going to rake it out even a little bit more. I don't know the exact head angles. Stock, obviously, it's 65 degrees, which is pretty banging. I'm guessing I'm probably 64 and a half with the setup I have right now. But anyways, let's stay focused here. Travel. like, don't be afraid to over fork your bike a little bit. Like, I truly don't think it's gonna mess with your geometry to the point where it's gonna really affect your riding or break the frame. By the way, if somebody tells you you've overforked your bike by like 10 millimeters and it has potential to break your frame or crack your frame, I can tell you right now, if your frame cracks because it's 10 mil over forked, she's probably gonna crack anyways. So just letting you know. Okay, now that we got travel out of the way, the next biggest thing that I want to talk about right now is compression dampening versus air pressure. So this is the big one, man. This is huge. And this is not just for hardtail. This is for, man, a huge chunk of mountain bikers in general, whether it's full suspension, downhill, hardtail, it doesn't matter. I find this to be a pretty rookie mistake that even a lot of people that are seasoned vets still make. And that is the simple fact that you want to let your damper do the work, not the air pressure. So what I mean by that is a lot of people, when they're banging through travel in their forks, so say you've had a ride out on the trail or whatever, and you're blasting through, say it was a mellow ride and you're blasting through that much travel on 174, and you're like, I should not be blasting through that much travel. I'm like, I better pump up the float pressure or the air spring. And then these same people are complaining about, oh, this crazy amount of arm pump. My arm pump's insane. Oh man, let the damper do its job. Now I don't care if it's a Fox factory with a grip 2 damper like this is, which is like top notch, amazing, or a basic fork. Like my old fork on this bike was a basic RockShox Yari, and I had that thing pretty dialed too. You want to in that case, you want to let the volume spacing, meaning the correct amount of spacers, and the dampener do the work for you. For some reason, people have this crazy misconception that the less dampening they use, the more supple the ride's going to be, which is like, it's mind-boggling, because what people will end up doing is they'll run no compression dampening, and they'll run a shit ton of air pressure in their shock. And they'll be like, oh, my hands are like arm pump galore. And I'm like I get it, and I understand where you guys are coming from. But I'm like, let the fork do its job. So let's drop that pressure down. Let's kick up that dampening a little bit. That dampener is going to dampen everything. Like, I want you guys to change your persona of dampening makes things rougher to stop the fork from traveling, to dampening dampens the chunder. It dampens the rocky bits on a trail. You want that dampener. So what I've suggested is maybe lowering that pressure a little bit. If you have to add some volume spacers in here, do that. Keep that pressure a little bit lower and use that dampening circuit. So we're gonna get into now how I like to set up sag, which is a little bit different than what the textbook tells you to do. But I think especially on a hardtail, this is the way to do it. And if you want a good suspension setup, I highly suggest you set your bike up this way. So let's get into it, baby. All right, gang. So when it comes to setting up your sag, which is like everybody loves that sag number, when it comes to setting up that front fork on your hardtail, no matter if it's 140 mil travel or 180 mil travel, I think the golden rule is about what, 25% sag. I think so. We go for, and then they tell you to, get up onto your pedals, balance, get into a nice attack position, and then make your measurement off that. I'm telling you right now, as a hardtail rider myself, an enthusiast, and also somebody who likes to make things simple, let's just throw that out the window, okay? So what I want you guys to do from now on is a very simple way. And actually, I got this off a video from a guy that owns a shop in Bellingham called Lost Co. Biking. He actually has the setup on this exact same fork. I'll try and find the link and put it in the description. But this is the way I truly think anybody, especially by themselves, should set up their fork, and especially on a hardtail. So what you're going to do is, instead of getting up into that attack position, you're now going to put that O-ring down. You're going to put your hands on your handlebars like so. You're going to put all your weight on your bike like so, and you're going to lift your feet off the ground like this, whoa, and then come up. And I want to see about 30% sag on a hardtail. I want to see about 30%, 35% is what I want to see. Makes it simple. This is the most consistent way you can do this. Once again, O-ring down, palms on your handlebars. You're going to lift up, gently put all your weight onto the fork, lift your feet off the ground, up, boom, 30 to 35% of travel. This is just an easy way to get a consistent reading to start your adjusting. Now, this being said, you can have 35% and blow through all your travel. That's when you gotta start messing with your settings, whether it's adding volume spacing or compression dampening. If you guys want to get super nerdy and super in depth to what I do with my suspension, because I'm a super nerd when it comes to suspension, you guys let me know in the comments below. I can go over a whole, I can go over like an hour video on fine dialing your high and low speed compression, your high and low speed rebound, especially from my racing days. Here, I'll give you a quick little tidbit. I used to find a really good base setting, and I'd write this out on a card, and I'd actually tape it to the bottom of my top tube. So when I'd race, because I used to race in both the BC National, or I guess it was the Canadian National Enduro Series and the California Enduro Series. So basically, I'd have a race almost every weekend, and the train was so different that I'd be changing my suspension out quite a bit, or changing my settings quite a bit. But I would always want that nice base setting, so I actually write down the settings and then tape it to the bottom of my top tube, and then I have a good baseline, and I can dial from there. Because usually it's only a couple clicks out each way, depending on the trail, from that base setting. But if you want to get into that crazy nitty gritty, you guys let me know below. But yeah, make sure you guys have a really easy way to start your base sag. So base sag for me would be O-ring down, lined out, boom here, lean over, all pressure on here. I want to see about 30-35%. So to give you an idea, I'm running a 170 millimeter fork. I'm 190 pounds, and I think I'm running around 78 PSI in my fork right now. These all vary depending on the fork, the travel, the year. But like I said, I had a basic RockShox ERE before, and I was able to get that pretty dialed too, to tell you the honest God truth, at 170, which is a couple volume spacers and a couple clicks of compression dampening. So yeah, let's get on to the next section. Okay, squad, so let's get into compression dampening. So if you're lucky enough to have yourselves a fork like I do, which is a 2020 Fox Factory, or any Fox Factory, or really any fork in general that has the ability to have both high and low speed compression adjustability. Let's go over that now. Now I want to let you know that I'm going to try and put a smaller section in here for forks that just have that low speed compression dampening, because like you can get a very similar feel out of those forks as well. So I don't want you to think you need to go out and get some crazy high-end fork, because that is 100% not the case at all. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'm going to grab one of my friend's bikes afterwards, which I have in my balcony, and I'll go over that fork afterwards. But for now, let's focus on the Fox 36 with both the high and low speed compression dampening. All right, so first off, this being a Fox 36 2020 factory, I'm a firm believer that Fox does a fantastic job of giving you a great baseline. So if you ever look at Fox setup guide, I think they do a fantastic job for both compression high and low and rebound high and low, setting you up out of the box. So don't ever think they do an job. They do a fantastic job. And if I had no time to set up anything, I would just run everything at stock settings and I would probably be fine. Because realistically, I'm not running more than a couple clicks out on each end from that stock setting. So as a hardtail runner, what are you looking for out of your fork? So this is pretty simple. We'll just get right into it, okay? So like this is your main pivot point. So everything's happening from here. So you can't have it be too firm, nor can you have it be too supple. So the sweet part about having high and low speed compression and high and low speed rebound is you have the ability to have best of both worlds. So typically as a hardtail runner, what I will do is I'll set everything stock. We'll just say it's like right in the middle, okay? We'll just say it's a 0 to 10 clicks. And in the middle for me is 5. We'll just say that, theoretically speaking. 5 and 5. We'll say 5 clicks, 5 speed, 5 clicks of low speed. If I'm running a hardtail, typically what I will do is I will take out maybe 2 clicks of high speed compression, meaning that fork's going to compress quicker when fast chattering bumps happen, like rocks, like boom, 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 boom. It's going to compress a little bit easier. So that's going to bring me from 5 clicks down to 3 clicks. So I still have a little bit of dampening, but not quite as much dampening. Okay? Vice versa, the low speed compression, which is like as I'm hitting a lip, or as I'm hitting the a ramp to a big, I'm hitting a transition to a big ramp, to a jump, or I'm coming off a big compression, or more so if I'm going down the steeps, because I like to run really steep technical terrain. So I use the low speed compression. Basically how this works is, oh man, I can go over so much stuff with this. High speed compression is basically the compression circuit as things run really quick, okay? Low speed compression is a completely different circuit, meaning if it senses the stroke is happening slower, it's going to add dampening into that circuit. So slower would be like a transition into a jump, or as I'm rolling down into the steeps, or a G out. The more low speed compression I add, the more support I'm going to get. So on a hardtail, what I typically like to run is high speed pretty quick, but I still need some dampening. And I like to run my low speed a lot firmer. And the reason I like to run it firm is as I come into those steep bits of trail, I don't want to dive into my travel. So instead of having 170 millimeters of travel, I've now dived into my travel to where I only actually have like 50 millimeters of travel because all my weight's over the front. I can actually combat that with low speed compression to where this happens a lot slower, so I'm actually able to keep my range more mid-stroke. If you guys have any questions or are confused about this, please feel free to get a hold of me on Facebook or Instagram. My name's the same, it's just Ben Yorke or Mr. Hardtail. Look me up. I'm just here to help you guys out and have fun riding bikes. And I know bike tech can get pretty confusing. So like if you guys have any questions or concerns, just fire me a message, let me know what's up, and I'll try and help you out. So yeah, that's your compression dampening. I like to run a little bit quicker, high speed, and a little bit slower, low speed. All right, Rebound. So Rebound's honestly a pretty simple one when it comes to hardtails. Shoot, this one comes with high and low speed Rebound. I honestly just run them both to the stock recommended settings. But what I'll tell you is, especially if you have like a single adjustment, it's pretty simple. On a hardtail, the only thing I'm looking for when I'm running Rebound is you want Rebound quick. And a full sus, it might not be what you want, but on a hardtail, you want the Rebound as quick as possible. And what I mean quick as possible is when you're setting up your Rebound, what I like to do is I'll push down on the bars and I'll let go. So I'll push down, I'll let go. And basically, I want my Rebound to be as fast as possible without bumping the tire up in the air. So if I push down on my handlebars and release really quick, and my tire jumps in the air, Rebound is too quick. But I also don't want it to stick and like come up slow. I want it as fast as possible without my front tire jumping off the ground. And you can see my Rebound is crazy quick, but my tire stays stuck to the ground. So when you're setting up your Rebound on a hardtail, try and get it as fast as possible because this is your suspension, right? This is all you got. So if you let that bad boy get packed up, or if you have it too slow, it's just gonna slowly work its way up the travel. Then you're gonna be up in this section, and that's gonna be a really harsh ride. So if I'm running my Rebound really fast, I can stay out here in this range where it's nice and supple. Okay? If that makes sense, but I also don't want to be pinging off of rocks. So a great rule of thumb is be able to compress the fork, let it rebound without the front tire jumping off the ground. As soon as the tire is not jumping off the ground, you have enough rebound. And that's it, man. The high and low speed, I'm not gonna lie, man, like on a hardtail, at this point in my experience, I don't know if there's a big difference between high and low speed Rebound when you're using a hardtail. I honestly basically set them up to manufacturer specific settings, and I actually just leave them there because I feel like they're really, really good. So if anybody has their own advice on that, by all means, like comment below and let me know your thoughts. Alright squad, I hope that wasn't too rambly or dorky or prolonged or whatever. But I do think as a hardtail owner and an avid hardtail rider, it is pretty important to have your fork set up good. And it doesn't matter if it's a hardtail or a full suspension bike. A lot of people overlook what they have in front of them. Like even these basic forks have a lot to offer, and a lot of people don't utilize that, and they suffer in their hands and wrists because of that. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything, if I didn't cover any of the stuff you guys are looking for, comment below. I try to respond to most comments. If not, hit me up on Facebook or Instagram, shoot me a message. I'm more than happy to reply. I'm most definitely not above that. I just love riding my bike. I love seeing people fired out about riding their bikes. And you guys have all been absolute beauties. So obviously if you have not done yet, feel free to drop a sub. You don't have to. It's all good. I'm just doing this for fun. But more importantly, stay positive. What's my slogan now? I think it is. It's positive vibes and gnarly rides. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.